Classic Domestique. So thank you all for joining. For those of you that don't know who we are, Connor and Ava and I here in Tucker, we are Domestique. Domestique is a fractional go-to-market operations agency. We're based primarily out of Boulder and Denver, Colorado. We are also a HubSpot partner, and Connor and I had the opportunity to go to HubSpot's inbound conference earlier this fall, and we're overwhelmed by all of the updates. And so what we thought we would do is put on a probably not very high level sexy, but like a very granular, practical sort of guide to a few different use cases that we're seeing a lot of our customers run into. And so the purpose of today's call is to really kind of, not do a ton of slideware, but to really get into the weeds of some of these updates. So I'm going to do a quick little spiel about our framework for those of you that aren't familiar with it, because I think it's a good starting point. So we think about revenue operations really more as go-to-market operations. So it's across the entire customer journey. So it's inclusive of marketing operations, sales operations, customer success operations, all of the different technologist layers as well, right? So your HubSpot admins, your Salesforce folks, your Clay experts, everything, all in alignment with product and finance. And we think about it as, these 5 work streams right here: strategy, process, tools, data, enablement, in that specific order. I could do 20 minutes on this whole thing, but Connor would kill me because we have a lot to get through. So today we're gonna just do a quick inbound recap. There's a million things we could cover, but we're trying to keep it pretty focused on what we think would be valuable for you all. And then we're going to get straight into it. I think before we can even get into some specific use cases, we want to talk HubSpot credits. We're getting a lot of questions around this: how they work, how they're priced, what requires a HubSpot credit, what doesn't. So we're gonna spend some time here. I'm gonna recommend everybody take a screenshot of that slide. We'll obviously send this out afterwards as well. And then Connor's gonna do a deep dive on the prospecting agent and the data agent, specifically in workflows. For those of you that don't know, I'm one of the 2 Domestique founders here, and I am joined by Connor Griffith, our HubSpot services lead. I think I'm pretty good in HubSpot. Connor makes me look like I don't know what I'm talking about. So he's going to be doing most of the driving here. Okay, Connor and I are going to tag team this. So this was my first HubSpot inbound, and I am not usually a huge fan of conferences. I was impressed. I was a little overwhelmed by how many updates there were, but I was impressed. I think the main takeaway for me coming out of HubSpot inbound was that they are really swinging for the fences when it comes to positioning themselves as, not just HubSpot, the marketing automation platform in a Salesforce-led ecosystem, but really as like the one-stop shop for a revenue tech stack or a go-to-market tech stack. The updates that came out of inbound, the updates that got dropped live at inbound, the updates that we've seen since really are positioning them as, one of the go-to-market tech stack leaders. Now, obviously, all these updates are new, and we're still playing around with them, but it felt like a meaningful step towards a pretty different vision than we've seen from HubSpot since, which is exciting. And the benefit of being in our position is we get to see how it all plays out over the next coming quarters and how all the other tech stacks respond, right? But it was pretty impressive. We are going to spend a lot of today, all of today, talking about the main updates that came out of it, right? Which are AI agents, the Breeze Studio, how all that works. And we're picking 2 specific use cases because there's just too many to cover. And what we're trying to do with this specific webinar is show, we're going to go deep into them. Connor's going to do like a live demo and walk you through them. If you have questions, raise your hand, interrupt us, let us know. But we really want to kind of show how these agents work. And even if you're not going to use the specific use cases that we're highlighting, hopefully it gets you thinking about how these agents are going to start operating within these tools. Connor, is there anything that you would add to your HubSpot inbound takeaways?
Yes, I would echo what you said about it being very exciting as far as the amount of updates that were dropped. But also at the same time, it was extremely overwhelming. So we're still sifting through like the update rubble, and I'm sure you all are too, and trying to figure out what's important, what isn't so relevant. There's just so much that was dropped on September 3rd, and then in the following month, right? There's been like hundreds of updates. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you're not alone. But overall, yeah, it was we definitely got caught up in the hype train of inbound. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. Cool. Okay. Let's get into it. So Allie, this will look familiar to you. We asked you for this and I just stole it from you. I just took a screenshot. I highly recommend everybody here take a screenshot of this. We're going to send out the deck, but take a screenshot. So HubSpot credits. Credits are what fuels, what drives, and how you pay for using not all agents by any means, but a lot of them. So not all agents require credit, but the big hitters, the one that are exciting and sexy, do. So specifically, where's my cursor? These are the agents that require credit. So customer agent, prospecting agent, which we're about to dive into, AI actions in workflows. That's a new one that requires credits. Data agent, we're also going to dive into this. This was my personal favorite thing that came out of inbound. Data Studio Sync, this is new. And then this buyer intent company creation. We personally don't use that here, but we do have some customers that do. Every other beta currently, as of today, Thursday, October 2nd, 2025, if you're watching this in the future, does not consume credits, but confirm that. Take a look. There are some credits here that get included per tier, which you can see over on the left. And on the right, what we've tried to do here, I mean, I'm taking credit for work that I didn't do here. Allie, our HubSpot partner manager, was kind enough to send all this over, gave us an overview of the features, actions, and credits that they consume. They're not all created equal. So having this in front of all of your HubSpot operators, I think, is going to be really important. The one thing that we've started doing is we've put this into just a team-facing Google sheet, right, that they can use to kind of run scenarios through. So, okay, if I'm going to go use the prospecting agent on 300 contact records, how many credits am I going to use? And you can come in and take a look at that, right? So again, take a screenshot here. We don't want you to accidentally get excited about this webinar and go spend 10 grand on credits that you don't need to. So Connor, is there anything you would add to the credits piece that I'm skipping over?
Yeah, I think the third bullet in the exceeding included credits section is pretty important. You can now, an option to manage what happens when you've gone over your limit. You can set to auto upgrade to the next tier of credits, or you can do a pay-as-you-go overage. I think HubSpot defaults to the auto upgrade thing, as we all know, with like marketing contacts and that stuff. But I think there's an option now to switch to pay-as-you-go, which is going to be helpful for a lot of people.
So just to
otherwise, if you don't purchase additional credits, it'll just pause. All your agents will just pause. once you get to your limit.
Neil, you had a question.
Yeah, one of the challenges I've seen with credits in the past is if you allow HubSpot to begin auto incrementing your credits, whatever your highest tier is that you have purchased or they determine you're going to consume is now the tier you maintain for the rest of the year.
Yeah,
Has that changed?
Yep.
Or is that still the same?
No,
I think that's the same.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's the
because
same.
that's for our business model, that because we're highly seasonal, it's prohibitive. And our renewal actually occurs at the end of our low season. So we carry our entire low season at peak credits on the calendar. Can we change our renewal date? Maybe that's a technique for follow-up on later. That's been prohibitive for us to even consider credits.
Yeah, for seasonal businesses, that makes sense. With yours specifically ending, that's a good question. I don't know the best way to handle that.
Yeah, I don't want to distract, but
No. Yeah,
it's something for us to consider as we try to solve for this.
yeah.
Mhm.
Connor and I will follow up with you and Kim on that. I saw an email just coming from you now. Let's chat about that. That's a good question.
Neil, I think what might help is switching to the pay as you go, because I believe that'll keep you in the same tier without auto upgrading you to the next tier, but you just pay for all the extra credits that you go over at the same, well, the rates are a little different based on country. I think if you're in the US, the rate of a credit usage is going to be the same for overages.
Okay.
Those vary by country, I believe, but obviously it's still a little bit murky, but yeah.
Okay. And a clarified pay as you go is new.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's new. We just started using it. It's great. It's a good question. Tucker, you asked, are the credit cost a per action cost? Yeah, it's a good question. So over here on the right side of the screen, we've got the different features here. Some of them are agents. Some of them are like automation actions that can happen or intent action, whatever. So yes, these are all different actions. And then the credits are where it gets tricky is not all actions are created equal, right? And so this is why I would have a table of this in front of you before you're about to roll anything out, and have another column. We should have had a screenshot of this. Oh well. Have another column for number of records or number of actions that you're going to run through the prospecting agent or a workflow feature, and it'll calculate the cost. And then you can see, is that within your credit usage limit or not? It's a good question. Okay, we could have a whole webinar on this topic. I'm going to keep us going because otherwise Connor's going to kill me because he has a lot to cover. Prospecting agent. This is something that we've been using internally kind of since it rolled out, and it's been very cool to see this evolve. When it first got rolled out, it was good, not great. Now it's pretty slick. So what is the prospecting agent? It's an always-on AI SDR that's native to HubSpot that is specific to a user. So I think they call them a selling profile or a sending profile. So it's not like a sequencing tool, right? You can't go create a prospecting agent sequence. Connor's going to get into all the weeds of it, but it's specific to a user, and your user obviously has to be connected to HubSpot. So we could have Alex's selling agent, and what it does is either in a fully autonomous or a semi-autonomous, for whatever it's worth, I recommend you starting with semi-autonomous. It'll enroll records, contacts, or companies manually or via different automation rules, which could be a workflow, and it will do research on this prospect, either the contact or the company, and based on all these inputs that you put into it, what you're trying to offer, if it's a free consultation, if it's a demo, if it's a book a meeting, if it's promoting a webinar, whatever it is, It will look at that. It'll look at your product, your audience, your tone, your brand, your voice, exclusion lists, all these different things, and it will draft 3 emails with whatever the call to action is. It could be book a meeting. You obviously can go in and tweak all of those to make sure it's exactly how you want it. But whether you are a founder-led organization, doing sales that way, or if you are trying to optimize and streamline your BDR or SDR operations, this is a great way to kind of get started. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to hand it over to Connor, and Connor's going to do a demo and just like walk through it. If you have any questions, obviously, please raise your hand and chime in.
Yeah, please do. So this is the prospecting agent home screen. I'm going to walk you through some of what Alex was talking about as far as like how to configure the agent, how to set up selling profiles, and then how to enroll people into it. So first of all, configuration for this agent is a little bit, spread out. There's like multiple things that you need to do in order to set this up. The first thing you're going to have to do is go to AI settings. This page, it's in your settings page. On the left sidebar, you just go to AI, this tab, and then toggle everything on. Like, you need to give users access to the AI tools. You need to give the AI access to your data. You can pick and choose here, but you can give it access to the whole CRM, customer conversations, and files. So this needs to be toggled on, and then you have to set up these data sources. So there's 5 things here. Most of you probably already have a brand kit, but if not, you want to set that up. This automatically populates with your basic company info. The real important ones here are setting up your ICPs and your products. So this gives you the option to set up as many ICPs as you want. When you create a new one, it's right. What's the name? What's the name of the ICP? What job titles are you targeting? What industries, location, revenue, company size, etc. So you're gonna have to build out your ICPs, and then in this tab, build out your products and services. And this is also where you put in like your value prop and your pain points that you solve. And then you create this itemized list of products. This is not the same as like setting up actual products in HubSpot if you're using like Commerce Hub. This is different. This is just for AI. So you're going to have to kind of redo it. If you have a ton of products, then you got to re-enter them here.
One call out. I built a lot of this out and I've been using it. It is worth getting this right. It is worth taking the time to be descriptive with your products, and then the ICP as well as the user profile. It really does add. This is one of the main things that drives the quality of the messaging and the targeting that the prospecting agent is able to do, because it is looking for signals that a person or a company, contact or a company, might be interested in one of these products. So it's annoying, but it's worth getting it right.
Yep, exactly. Last thing is user profile. This is just your basic info. This will be different for everyone looking at it. Name and job title, that's all it looks at here. The other important thing you need to configure is on a rep by rep basis, their setup in HubSpot. So if like every rep would have to go to their general settings here and at least do an email and calendar connection. So connect their personal email. They must create an email signature for it to show up in the prospecting agent emails. And then they have to enable the agent with this checkbox. And they have to do that individually. If you're a super admin, you can log in as them and do it for them, but you can also just ask them to do it. Same with calendar. You want them to connect their calendar because the agent will use a calendar link as one of the primary CTAs. So connect your calendar, sync it up. Married with that, they have to have scheduling pages, obviously. So have them configure their default meeting link and connect their calendar and connect their email. That's like the basic setup behind the scenes of the agent. If we go back to the agent screen here, there's 3 tabs: overview, enrollments, and analyze. Overview tab is just what it says it is. Gives you a little bit of info on who's currently enrolled. Basic stuff. I would spend most of your time here in the enrollments. This shows you who's actually enrolled in the agent. So it gives you the name, email, basic information, and then you can kind of filter by statuses. So who's ready, like whose emails are ready for review, who's currently in progress, who's finished, who's errored, who's queued up. So this is like the list view that you would look at to just understand who's enrolled in the prospecting agent right now. Analyze tab shows you outcomes. So who's been enrolled, who's received emails, who's opened them, and who's clicked, and then who's basically like taken that final action, either scheduling a meeting or replying.
And one call out here, again, I know I said it already, you can choose to have a fully automated setup in which, that total enrollments to delivered emails is probably going to be closer to 1-to-1 unless you've got a shitty database. And then 2, if you have a semi-autonomous setup, which this instance does, it allows you to go in and sort of manually review every single enrollment and say, okay, do I want you to enroll or not? Which is why you're going to see this option over here, this like status of do you want to review the email? So again, recommend starting semi-autonomous.
Yeah, on that note, there's a little more setup that you should definitely do. Alex mentioned it already, but it's creating selling profiles. So we have 2 internally. We have Alex's selling profile and Reese, the other co-founder. You can create a general selling profile that basically just sends as the contact owner. I would recommend, like Alex already said, to create a selling profile for every seller, unless you have an insane amount of sellers, then it might not be scalable. But create a selling profile for every individual. They can customize it too, like they can give it additional context. But the selling profile is just a basic setup like this. You can kind of give it the identity. So this is, you can choose to send it from a single user, like this one's sending from Alex, or you can send from the contact owner. You can give it a tone. So like there's some preset tones, or you can use your brand voice if you've set that up. It does multi-language outreach. And then there's some context here that you want to give it, right? Selling information. What does your company sell? What's your value prop? Pain points, products. This populates from the AI setup. So you shouldn't have to worry about this if you have done that. Call to actions. There's 3 options here. HubSpot meeting link is probably the most important. So that's why you want to have them set up their meeting link. And then you can also choose to have the agent send a document or like a link in their emails. This is an important section, the guardrails. So this is where you'd set if the agent is fully autonomous, so it's sending emails automatically, or if it's giving you the option to review them. We would recommend reviewing before sending any emails. Obviously, it's a little more work, but it helps you catch the unavoidable AI gibberish that sometimes is produced. So I would recommend definitely starting with keeping it on review before sending and just having your reps review what's going out. If you get to a point where everyone's like, the AI agent is perfect, then you can consider sending automatically. Would not start with this though.
Yeah, and one anecdotal note on that is I've actually The reasons why I specifically, and some of my clients that I'm more actively engaged with, have chosen to not enroll a contact, or to not really send the emails to a contact that has been enrolled, has less been because the emails themselves are not high quality. The emails are actually pretty good. You might go in and like make a couple tweaks here and there, but it's because, the wrong contact, or a contact that shouldn't have been enrolled was enrolled. And that comes down to, really nothing to do with the prospecting agent. That's just about the data quality. Like, if a customer joins, but the customer's not tagged as a customer, or if a partner or somebody in your network, or maybe an employee, so again, it kind of comes down to, again, all the sort of other go-to-market processes you have within HubSpot. But I haven't really seen, too much AI hallucination here. It's more about, is the right contact getting enrolled? So that's just a anecdotal note.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this might go to how contacts are being enrolled. You can enroll them manually, or you can enroll them with a workflow. We have it set up so that we are enrolling people into the agent through a workflow. So it could also come down to workflow filters, right? Is it allowing too many contacts in? Maybe the contacts are already engaged in some way. They don't need to be prospected to. So yeah, data quality, enrollment filters, definitely want to keep tabs on that to make sure that you're getting the right people into this. Outreach guidance is like, do you want to execute on business days? What times? Outreach frequency, minimum days between emails and maximum emails per enrollment. So this means like, if a contact is enrolled, they will only receive a maximum of 5 emails from the prospecting agent before they're unenrolled. So if they don't reply, it won't just keep emailing them. It'll stop after 5. And you can set this to 5 is the max. And then advanced is where you give it custom instructions. We definitely recommend doing this. You can basically put in whatever you want here to give it more context. So what do you want it to be doing? Be helpful and professional. There's some example prompts down here that HubSpot recommends. You can paste these in there, but I would give it some custom context. It'll just help it be more specific. So that's a selling profile. Now you're ready to actually enroll people into this. So there's a few ways to do that. One, you can do it straight from here manually from the agent page with enroll. You can enroll contacts or companies. So when you enroll a company, it'll just start prospecting to all the associated contacts at the company. We enroll contacts individually. But it looks like this. It takes you to this page where you can find and select the contacts you want to enroll into this. There are some filters here. This might not be the best way for you to enroll because it just might not be where your reps are spending their time. So the other ways I would recommend is just if they have like a contact list view that they go to every day, or if they use the sales workspace, I would just have them enroll from there. That looks like this. If I go to the contact list page, Allie, you're my test contact today, by the way, so you just don't be alarmed, but here's your record. All you got to do is check the box next to the contact or the set of contacts that you want to enroll, and then this enroll to agent pops up. You just click that. Similarly, from the sales workspace, you do it from companies. So under the prospects tab, companies sub-tab, find the company that you would want to enroll, click on that company, and then you go to the buying group tab, and that lists out the contacts, right? HubSpot, we have a ton of associated contacts. I just want to find Allie. She's our champion. I would hover over the contact that you want to enroll, hit the actions dropdown, and then enroll to agent. When you do that from wherever you're enrolling agents from, it'll take you to this screen, which is the actual email generator. It might take a second because I'm sharing my screen and things always go slower when I am. But basically it's generating an email based on the selling profile that's set. So Alex's prospecting agent selling profile is the default. It's going to default to this. The tone, it's going to look at context in the CRM for Ali and figure out like what's happening here. And then it'll draft an email right here for your review.
One quick little note is if you choose the witty tone, it is very witty. It is like Deadpool level PG maybe, but it is very witty. So just again, use discretion with
use caution.
Use caution. I got very excited about the witty tone. I was like, oh yeah, that's our brand. And the first email is like, okay, every single line is sarcastic, which is my brand, but I am not everybody's brand. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah. So here, like, this is where you can review the email. You can just click straight into it and review as needed and change and edit. But this is where tokens show up. So like you'll see the call to action is checked over here, the request a meeting call to action. It shows up here. And then Alex has a email signature set in HubSpot. So that's showing up here. If you like the email, you can start agentic outreach here and it'll just enroll the contact into the agent and send the first email. If you don't like what's here, you can regenerate the content. You can change the selling profile. If I wanted this to come from Reese, I would change to Reese and then select apply and regenerate. And it would just regenerate the content. So yeah, that's how it works. Again, you have an option to enroll contacts into the agent via workflow as well, if you want to automate the process. And then sales reps can toggle on a notification setting in their personal settings to be notified via in-app message or email or whatever when they have a new enrollment, and then they can go to the prospecting workspace and review it. So if I were to come in here and these are my enrollments and they're ready for review, you basically just come in here, hover over it, review the emails that the agent has set up for you. And then if you like what you see, you click the approve outreach.
Any questions, any comments, any concerns? I don't know. Any thoughts from anybody? Any questions? Yeah, Neil.
I'm wondering if there's some sort of heuristic that suggests there's a minimum price point multiplied by the function of like conversion rates for these, where the agents have an ROI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what your thoughts are on that for like your product and service conversion rates. These things will pay themselves.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think there's two answers to that. One is it depends on the tier that you have, right? Because you get a certain amount of credits per tier that just come with your marketing hub, your sales hub, right? So for example, Domestique isn't paying any extra for any credits. We're just being strategic to only use the credits that we're essentially already paying for within our hub. So I think that's point one. Point two is, yeah, it's definitely a volume conversation, right? Like I think your point about price point of like your product or service, your ASP, but it's also volume, right? Like if it's a high velocity e-commerce deal, I don't know that this would make sense, right? But if you're, if your volume is lower, your ASPs are higher. I mean, again, we could probably answer that question in a quick Google sheet. I think it would just take some, quick calculations to come up with when does this stop making sense. But my gut says super high volume and low converting outbound motions probably aren't going to make sense. That being said, this is just one tool, right? So this is HubSpot's, sort of first crack at the AI, SDR, AI, VR. There are a ton of these out there, and they're all priced similarly. Like they're all usage based, right? And so what's nice about this is if you're already using HubSpot, you've got Sales Hub Pro or Sales Hub Enterprise, you're already given credits, right? And so it's worth, like, it's just a great way to run some experiments. So I think there is probably a threshold where it stops making sense. My gut says it's a high volume, low ASP play.
Okay, that answers the question. Thanks.
Yeah.
And then to be clear, you can do this on people, not just companies, because I know some of their automations are company driven. Okay.
Yeah, you can enroll contacts, you can enroll companies, and then when you enroll companies, you can go in and pick specific contacts, right? And HubSpot rolled something out. I think they call it a buying group, right? Where it'll kind of like a heat map where it'll say, okay, these folks, and again, it's based on the ICP work that you've done earlier to say, hey, this is the VP of marketing, this is the VP of sales, this is the VP of customer success. These 3 contacts out of these 25 are probably the ones that you want to focus on, which is super helpful. I'm seeing some other questions in here. What's the trade-off from this for standard sequences? Good question, Tucker. Think of businesses that users. Yep. So one point that I have to admit I did not fully understand when I started tinkering with this when they rolled it out in beta is prospecting agent is not sequences. It's different than that, right? And it is not. So this is not outreach. This is not the sales loft. This isn't even the HubSpot sequences tool where I can come in as sales enablement and draft out a 20-step multi-channel sequence that all the reps can run the same play on. This is not that. This is what HubSpot calls a seller profile or a contact owner specific and a prospect specific messaging tool, right? And so one of the things that we didn't really spend too much time on, do me a favor, Connor, over here on the left-hand side of your screen, click down on Lauren Chadwick. Click on her. Okay, so something we didn't really cover is something that HubSpot does is it will do research on these folks. So click the view research button. I don't really, there you go. So it'll summarize like, hey, this is the research that tells us why we are enrolling this specific contact. What other records are she associated with, and why are we including her? And it allows you to kind of get really specific. So the use case is this is hyper personalized, as opposed to a sequence is still one-to-one, but it's definitely, a bit of a spray and pray. Joe, another good question. So one email generated, it's a good question. We got to go back to the deck to answer that question. One email generated from an agent equals 1 credit? No. So for prospecting agent, again, I'll send this out. For prospecting agent, the way it works is, I think it's 10. I think it's 10 credits. Yeah, it's 10 credits. Again, they're not all created. Yeah. Thank you, Connor. Cool. We have one more agent we want to get through. We got 18 minutes left. We're going to try to not pull a Reese and go 20 minutes over. We're going to keep going. Okay. Data agent. I think I can speak for Connor and myself. This was definitely one of the things that we were most excited about as ops nerds coming out of HubSpot inbound. So Breeze data agent, whatever, is a AI data worker, right? It's like your AI data analyst, right? It researches, analyzes, answers questions, populates, smart properties, which we'll get into in a sec. And it can pull from sources that you approve, but multiple different sources, emails, documents, files that you've uploaded, links out on the web, and then write it back to HubSpot, right? So when used well and when orchestrated properly and with precision, it's super powerful. So you can build smart properties, which is essentially just an AI-populated, AI-filled HubSpot property. Smart columns in this, what we'll get into, called Data Studio, which is a whole new workspace with it. That's not the right word. We're just going to go with workspace. It's a whole new workspace within HubSpot. And it can pull from company research. So company meaning prospect or customer research, other property data, obviously, call transcript, which is something that we've started using, which has been super helpful in things like stage advancement criteria or customer health scoring. And you can use all this in a sort of no code, fully automated way. So this specific agent, there are 1,000,001 applications and use cases. We've picked one to try to get your juices flowing. So Connor, I'm gonna hand it over to you, and let's kind of let's stick with one use case here.
Okay. Yeah, data agent also has its own kind of hub page in HubSpot. It's in this data management area. It's a beta right now. I think you have to opt into the data agent beta for it to show up. It has its own hub like prospecting agent, but the actions that you would take with data agent are a little more dispersed, like Alex mentioned. From here, they're really pushing creating smart properties from this area, but there's not as much information here as like using data agent in workflows or using data agent in a data set. The one use case I'm going to go through is using it in workflows. So a really powerful aspect of data agent is that it can go and it can analyze unstructured data, right? It can look at a form submission message and parse what's going on in that open text field, right? So I'll just bring up the example now. This example I've seen this use case a time or two out in the wild, and I think HubSpot highlights it in its help documentation. But using data agent to qualify leads is super powerful. This use case specifically is qualifying hot leads. So if somebody has submitted a demo request form, then this workflow is basically setting data agent loose on that form submission and using it to qualify if it's a real lead, if it's an ICP lead, or not, right? So basically it's saying this person submitted a demo request, and then there's this workflow action called data agent custom prompt. And this is where you give it the prompt and the context that it needs to make a decision. So I'm pulling in various tokens from the associated contact and that contact's company, if it's known. These are gained either through the form itself or from enrichment. I have automatic enrichment set on here. So like you could have a form with an email address only that's not accepting free email domains, and then you can just enrich it and then use that information in this prompt. So I'm giving it the contact's email, job title, LinkedIn, and it's their message, right? Like what message did they leave on the form? Then I'm giving it company information, so revenue, industry, LinkedIn page, domain, etc. Then I'm giving it a prompt. So evaluate if this is a real person from a real company. If it is, analyze their message to determine their level of interest, see if they're in our ICP, determine if they're trying to solicit us, like sell us their services. If they're a real person from a real company, they're generally genuinely interested, they fall within our ICP, they are qualified. If they're spam, if they're a bot, if they're soliciting, or they don't fall into our ICP, or they're just not interested, they are unqualified. So you give it that prompt, and then in this action outputs section down here, this is where you actually like give it the categories to put its response into. So it'll generate like a long text response, but it can also just basically put the lead into a bucket too. So I've given it this, I've created this enumeration output called qualification with these 3 values: qualified, unqualified, or unknown. And then when you save this, you can then use that action output as a branch. So this branch, you can't see it because I already created it, but it'll allow you to, from like the data source, instead of using the contact enrolled, you can switch it to that action output. I'll show it to you really quick. I'll just create a new action, new branch on the one property or action output, and then switch from enrolled contact to action output here. And then the qualification is the text that the AI generates. The response is I'm sorry, I had that backwards. The response is the text. The qualification is that 3 option bucket. So I'd select qualification and then just use each one as its own branch, which I did down here. Now we have a bucket for qualified, a bucket for unqualified, and a bucket for unknown. So if the agent determines that it's qualified, it'll send the contact owner a internal email that says, data agent has qualified a demo request lead. Here's their information. Here's the context from data agent, right? So I put the token in of the agent's response. So send out that notification email, and then if you want to set whatever a lead status or a lifecycle stage, you can do that as well. If it's determined to be unqualified, we send a similar email that says data agent has disqualified a demo request lead. It might have done it erroneously, right? So we want somebody to review it. So you still send the email and say, this is a DQ'd lead, review please. If it's unknown, basically the same thing, like unable to determine the qualification, please review. What that looks like in practice is, ironically, we actually ran out of credit, so I can't show you this live, but luckily I did a test earlier. The output is this email. So Ali, here you come again. You submitted a demo request this morning. Thank you so much. You are qualified. So Ali is from HubSpot. HubSpot's a real company. Ali's a real person. This is her job title. Here's HubSpot with HubSpot's information. She told us that she's interested in our attribution modeling service. That's great. And they fit in within our ICP, and there's no indication that they're soliciting or anything like that. So that's basically it. It's just helping you or helping your SDRs qualify inbound leads. I have another use case for warm leads too. But I do want to pause there and see if anybody has any questions on this one.
Yeah, super helpful. Neil put a few questions in there. Neil, do you want to just ask him?
Sure. And this is a little bit all over the place. It's not just data agents, Connor, that you've been speaking to now, but interesting use cases. One is the ability to have the data agent or any of these agents consume custom fields.
Yeah, you can give it any field in this custom prompt.
Okay, just checking. Do the agents learn what content and CTAs are effective the longer they run based on the engagement with the outputs that the agents create?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know what the capabilities are for these agents to learn over time.
Yeah.
At this point, it seems like it's just the context that you give them in the moment.
Yeah, but it also seems it creates each output on the fly, and so it has the ability to not be overly structured. So there could be a potential.
Yeah.
Depends on HubSpot's.
You know what? I'm thinking about it now, and another action that you could do is, so you run this custom prompt and the agent gives you that response. That response, it only exists in the context of this workflow, right? As like a token. You can send it out in an email, but that's it, right? What you can do is you can save that response into a smart property, right? Like this is I want to take your response and put it into a smart property. And then I think you could use that smart property that you just generated later for like
smart
past context.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's how you would do like a cyclical learning for these agents.
Yeah, you wire it yourself. Okay. And then everything we've been talking about are prospects and lead databases. Can we point these to our customer database to reactivate them?
Customer database, just meaning like existing contacts in your CRM that are customers.
Past purchasers of specific products. Can we have these agents go back and say, hey, it's time, right? It could be your renewal. It could be another, in our business context, another rental, another tour. New bikes are on hand. New makes and models that someone might have shown interest in for historical makes and models.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a couple other agents that might qualify for that specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are several other agents on the prospecting agent side. A way to do it too, going all the way back to the beginning of the session, creating a specific ICP that is like customers that have purchased in the past that you want to reactivate, and then coming up with, again, like whatever the custom CTA, the custom language, the custom value, all of that stuff that's specific to that specific selling profile. So yes is the short. But to Connor's point, there are several other customer specific agents that are pretty slick as well. That could probably actually be like a prerequisite to helping with that. There's like a customer health score one that you could program to look at, for ways to service customers. That could be a good opportunity to sell again to. And maybe like there's like a company research agent that runs into a customer health score agent that then determines, based on a decision tree, into enrollment in the prospect engagement, which is like a reselling agent to your existing customers.
Yeah. I mean, the historical way that marketing has worked is you look at your customer database, you segment that database, you craft a campaign against that segment, and basically everybody in that segment gets the exact same campaign and workflow. Where this is headed is you don't segment your database. You let the agents predetermine the segmentation and the content, and eventually people are getting custom emails.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned segments, because one of the other things that HubSpot rolled out is what they're calling segments. And you can go in and create specific segments of records, people, companies, contacts, companies. And again, as a way to like overlay this into smart properties that fuel super personalized prospecting agents that are a part of a broader personalized campaign. And again, from a marketing perspective, this is all inside the tech stack operations, but there's also like an external customer facing view here, where if you're running your website or landing pages using HubSpot, there's all kinds of implications there that a specific person or a specific company could have an entirely different experience of, going to a web page than another. So yeah, if you can, the key word that everybody keeps using is, if you, the operator, whether you're on RevOps or go-to-market leadership or you're a founder-led sales, whatever it is, if you can orchestrate all of this together in a thoughtful way and point it at a specific use case, it's pretty slick. And we chose two, really specific use cases here, but these are just two, right? Data agent can kind of, I don't want to say it can do anything, but it can do a lot. Now, again, going back to the credits conversation, be mindful of your credit usage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're out of time, but really quick, I'll just pass through this. This is a warm lead qualification. It's very similar to the hot lead workflow I just showed you, but basically it's saying if someone, whatever, has reached a lead score threshold, or they've downloaded content, whatever it may be, run them through a similar prompt and see if they're an ICP fit. And if they are, set them to qualified for prospecting, and then just enroll them into the prospecting agent. So this is a way to kind of combine data agent with prospecting agent. And you can just do it all in a workflow. It's very similar to what we do at Domestique internally, but this is just a demo workflow.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Connor. Super helpful. Pretty cool stuff. Any other questions, comments, call outs, concerns from anybody else here on the group? Any other use cases that you'd be interested in or that you're already using? All right.
Yeah. Trying to think of some. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Bringing this forward from the conference.
Yeah, absolutely. If this was helpful, we'll do a few more of these, because again, there's so many use cases for these tools. So thank you, Connor. That was awesome. And thank you, Neil, for being so engaged. And thank you, everybody, for joining. This is going to be the first of a long HubSpot specific series. You're welcome, Carolyn. Thank you. Once this all downloads and everything, we will share out the recording and the deck. And if anybody has any specific questions, or, hey, you want to jump on a working session with myself or Connor to talk through anything, we'd be happy to look over your shoulder and see what we can do. Cool. All right, everyone. That's all I got.